You're listening to The Podium, where we celebrate the best from the world of motorsport. And our next guest on The Podium has gone on to become one of the most popular figures in the Formula One paddock. He has worked at Jaguar, Red Bull, and more recently the HAAS Formula One team as their team principal. He's also one of the faces of the hugely popular Drive to Survive series, and he'll be touring Australia next month. It is the one and only Guenther Steiner. Guenther, thank you so much for joining us on The Podium.
Thank you for having me, guys. Really looking forward to come to Australia in the next weeks.
Yeah, it's very exciting. We'll be here for the Adelaide Motorsport Festival as well. And then we've got an evening with Guenther Steiner for one night only in Melbourne. Tell us, Guenther, what can motorsport fans expect from an evening with Guenther Steiner?
I can answer questions. I cannot do any more than that. I cannot race myself, But no, I think it will be a nice evening for people coming there. I mean, they can ask questions, and I'm not saying I've got all the answers, but I can tell you I've got always an answer. So maybe it's not what they want to hear, but no, it could be very interesting.
Well, yeah. Well, at the start of the year, we all got the surprise news that you'd no longer be continuing with the HAAS Formula One team this season after a 10-year-long relationship with the team. What have your emotions been like since your departure, and has it been difficult following the pre-season action from the sidelines?
The emotions have been, I think once I was gone, I think I felt relieved, that was my emotion. Obviously, when it happens, you're a little bit disappointed. You think what I've done wrong, why I don't continue. But then after 10 years in one place, it's actually a good change for me. I really enjoying the time in the moment. I'm doing different things, which I like to do. Coming to Australia before, I couldn't do before because I would have to do some work. So this opens for me other opportunities to see other things than just the grind, keeping on going, more of the same. Following from the sideline, I obviously looked at the times today. I spoke with my friends. I've got quite a lot of friends in Formula One. What was actually happening, to get a little bit of the gossip and the background, what happened, So, but no, it's not a problem for me to follow it from the side. Actually, I'm enjoying it because at least when I go to bed, I know that tomorrow morning I'm not responsible for doing anything. It's just different, but it's cool in the moment. Enjoying it.
Yeah, it's great that you feel like relief after so much pressure on your shoulders for so long. I mean, you've been involved in motorsport for so many years now, in one form or another. Can you tell us about when you first discovered your love for motorsport?
Yeah, and it was as a kid. I maybe have been 8-9 years old. I don't know where it came from. The area where I come from, northern Italy, there is no motorsport. Everybody's skiing or playing ice hockey. There's nothing else. There's no racing cars. I always loved racing cars, and I don't know where it comes from. My family wasn't into motorsport. It's like I just loved it, and then I begged my father. There was only one race in that area to take me to that race. I just loved it this much, and it started there. No idea where it came from.
Yeah, well, as we've said, you've been involved in various levels of motorsport. I have to ask you, though, is it true that F1 legend Niki Lauda headhunted you specifically for the role at the Jaguar Formula One team back in the day?
Yeah, I don't know if it was specifically, it was very, I worked in rallying, and I was with rallying when the Rally of Australia was in Perth in the good old days, so I've been there quite a few times. And no, I worked for Ford Motor Company, not directly. M Sport was the works team, and Niki was running Jaguar, which at the time was owned by Ford. And he just asked somebody from Ford, do you know anybody who would be good in helping out here? And they gave him my name, and he called me up and invited me for dinner. And the next morning he told me I'm going to work for him. Obviously, I asked him what I'm going to do, Mr. Lauda. And he said, I don't know yet, but I will tell you when I know. All right, then. That was Niki, yeah. Yeah, it's true. I mean, otherwise, I was very happy where I was in rallying. I wasn't looking around, but obviously having the opportunity to go into Formula One with Niki Lauda is something I couldn't let go.
Well, yeah, well, that's the thing, such an iconic name. Who were your favourite drivers as a kid when you were watching motorsport?
I would say when I was very little, I mean, in the 70s, it was Niki because the part of Italy I come from is very close to Austria, and he was like a hero because he was, I think, of the Austrians at the time, very liked. And then going on for me, always Ayrton Senna because of his talent. I never met Ayrton. I never met. I was in the motorsport when he was around, and I I mean, and then once you start working in Formula One, you always have your favorite, the guy which drives for you. Otherwise, you wouldn't have him. Huh?
Very true.
I had a very good relationship at Jaguar with Eddie Irvine. I still have got a good relationship with him. We text each other quite frequently.
Yeah, amazing. What were the first steps you sort of took to make a motorsport career for yourself?
I did my national service. When I was young, you still had to do that in Italy. And after my national service, I just answered to an advert which a company, a rally team in Belgium had, which were looking for mechanics. And I went there. It was as simple as this at the time. I went there for an interview, got the job, moved to Belgium for 2 years. That was it, and never really left since then.
Wow, that is amazing. I mean, yeah, you were one of the original members of Red Bull when it first entered Formula One. Are you surprised by the amount of success that the energy drink manufacturers had and that it's gone on to achieve since then?
No, not really. I mean, Mr. Mateschitz was a big visionary, and he was always prepared to spend the money, to invest. I mean, he always wanted to do, for him, that's what he wanted to do, being world champion, and obviously they had the financial means to do it. I think as a marketing tool, it worked very well for them as well. So it all came together. So I'm not surprised that they won this much.
Well, yeah, you were involved with Red Bull for a few years. In 2006, so you made the big move over to America, where you're joining us from now, actually, to head up Team Red Bull. Tell us, what was that experience like, the first foray for Red Bull into NASCAR? How did you find it, and how did you find acclimatizing to the American lifestyle over there?
The American lifestyle is pretty easy to acclimatize because it's pretty good. NASCAR for me, I'm completely honest, I didn't know anything about it when I got here. I know it existed, but I didn't know my way around or nothing. And when you come from Formula One, you think a little bit, you know it all, and you come here and try to be like this. And then after a few weeks, I realized it is different than Formula One. It isn't better or worse. It's just different. And I cannot change a culture. So I told myself, watch it for 6 months, learn about as much as you can in 6 months, and then try to add the knowledge I have got to make the team better. Nothing else I did, because I realized it's so different than Formula One or any European motorsport. So I just needed to, it's a different culture. And as I said before, it's not better or worse. People ask, is it better or worse? Neither of the two. It's just different. It's actually a pretty good series.
Yeah, well, it was when you were over there that you linked up with Gene Haas and you guys, put together the early formation of the HAAS Formula One team. Talk about how that all came about.
I left the Red Bull NASCAR team, and then I opened up my own company. I've got a composite company with a business partner. And then at that period of time, F1 was struggling in 2009 when the economy wasn't good and there wasn't enough teams. And there was a US team trying to get into it called HAAS F1. They were very near where I am. And, my company did work for them. And then I just realized, and Bernie Ecclestone called me always up asking how they're doing. And, all of a sudden you're in the middle of this. And then I thought, actually, the idea is pretty good to have a team out of the US. For Formula One. It's just these guys, they didn't have enough experience to do it. And there was also always the talk about customer cars because there wasn't enough cars at that period of time in Formula One. So I just decided to write up a business plan, speak with my friends at Ferrari, at the FIA, and see if it was possible. And they said, yeah, if you find the money to do this, we are helping you. And then I went around shopping for an investor, and I found Mr. Haas, presented the business plan, and he wanted to do it.
Amazing. And
now sounds very simple. Sounds very simple now,
That's all you have to do, yeah.
That's all you have to do. Just write a business plan and go around, knock on doors.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, you've made it work, and you've had such an efficient team that you've created over these years. And you've had great partnerships like Ferrari and Dallara. Can you tell us more about your partnership with Dallara now and how it's changed over the recent years? Because I understand that you've moved more to working closely with Ferrari, but you do have a lot of employees from Dallara.
Yeah, in the beginning, we had quite a lot of employees from Dallara because they know what they're doing. It was an easy way to get qualified people instead of recruiting everything, and working with Ferrari. Obviously, they wanted to keep the know-how within Italy. And so it was a very good solution. And I know Mr. Dallara since a long time. I mean, he's an icon in Italy in racing, in racing he's an icon. That got very good relationship. So it all came together. The relationship changed a little bit in 2020 because Gene Haas didn't know if he wants to continue when the pandemic hit. So we had to do things differently. And all of a sudden, there was quite a lot of people available from Ferrari because the budget cap came in place and they could not have all the people working for them because they would be over in the budget cap. So we got the solution to get 10 people on board for HAAS. So, but still, before I left, there was still about an average between 30 and 40 people from Dallara working on the project, and a lot of or almost all the structural parts of the car, like the chassis, which is very complex to make, and the wings, the front and the rear wing, have been still made by Dallara last year. Going forward, don't ask me what they are doing.
Well, there's been so many achievements during your time with HAAS. You were there for 10 years. Just to reel some off, a sixth-place finish in the team's debut in Melbourne with Romain Grosjean in 2016, a fifth-place finish in the constructors' standings in 2018, and, of course, that memorable pole position for Kevin Magnussen at Interlagos in 2022. I have to ask you, what would you say has been the biggest highlight from your time working at HAAS?
The biggest thing was when we went testing in 2016 and everything worked, and then when we came to Australia and got away with points. Because there were so many people which didn't believe that this is possible to do and we can do it. And with a new team to score points on your first race, I mean, not many people have done that, to be honest. So the team did a fantastic job, and that is a thing which sticks with me, because there were so many naysayers. There are normally if you do a big project, and then you come out on the good side, it's just a good feeling.
Yeah, well, the new Formula One season is just around the corner at the moment with pre-season testing kicking off. One of the big stories in the past few weeks has been around Lewis Hamilton and his move to Ferrari. What have you made of this? How do you think it's going to work for him there?
I think it's a good move. I mean, it's very similar. With me, he was 11 years in the same team. Sometimes, and for him, he's got still a few years left, but maybe he wants a new challenge, and I think a little bit every driver's dream is to be with Ferrari, and if he can make it work, it would be. I mean, if he could win a world championship with Ferrari going forward, that would make him, he's a legend already, but that would make him the mega legend, So I think for him also as a challenge, as a human being, this is something he wants to do. He's very good friend with Fred Vasseur, the team principal there. When he drove the F3, he drove for Fred. So there's a big bond there. So hopefully they make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. I can understand why he would want a new challenge and all that. Has your favourite field of motorsport to work in been Formula One, or do you have really fond memories of when you worked in, rally and all the other sorts of classes of motorsport that you worked in?
I always, as long as I worked in motorsport, I always liked in whatever I worked in, and I can say I'm very lucky. I always had jobs which I liked. Obviously, when you think Formula One is the pinnacle of motorsport, and once you're in it, it's something you want to be involved. So you keep around because you know the people, and as I said, it is the top of motorsport, and I think it's not only motorsport; it's one of the top sports in the world now. So it's being involved at this level is pretty cool. So but I don't regret anything else I did in motorsport, to be honest. I always enjoyed what I did.
That's very good. I have to ask you as well, back on the note with Lewis Hamilton's move to Ferrari, what do you think Mercedes should do with that seat there? Do you think they should promote someone like a Kimi Antonelli? Or I know that you're a massive fan of Fernando Alonso. Do you think they should maybe swoop on him?
I think it's not an easy decision. I think, first of all, with Antonelli, they need to see how he does in Formula 2 this year. I think they've got a little bit of time for sure. Toto is pretty good at that stuff to give himself a little bit of time. But otherwise, it is not an easy decision who to put in. But I think they've got the choice. That is always nice because there's a lot of people which want to go to Mercedes. Next year, there is quite a few drivers free which could go there. So I mean, as much as they maybe don't like that Lewis is leaving, there is a lot of options out there. And again, for them, it could give them a new spring, basically. They can get going again because it's fresh air as well. Because a driver gets stagnant in a team, so gets the team stagnant with the driver. So sometimes change is good. And now they're forced to make change, maybe, and they will take that to their advantage, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, we've talked about how much Formula One has evolved over the years that you've been involved in the sport. Formula One has exploded in popularity, though, thanks to the Netflix series Drive to Survive over the past few years. I have to ask you, has it surprised you how this documentary series has turned you into a household name? And I have to ask as well, how have you and your family dealt with the fame that's come from being a key figure in this series?
It was all a plan. It wasn't. No, I never thought this will ever happen. This is not a thing like when they started to film. I never envisaged that this will pick up like this. And then when it came out, you think, yeah, people will watch it and then they will forget about it. But it keeps on. It's a gift which keeps on giving, I think, for Netflix, the Drive to Survive. So it is a little bit strange to me, but I think they were there at the right time, at the right place. And for me personally, after a while you get used to it, and I just live a life as normal as I can. Obviously, on the race weekends, it's getting quite intense when you're outside, not in the paddock. Even in the paddock is intense, but you get used to it and you find ways around it, because sometimes you have to shield yourself a little bit off. Otherwise, it's just getting too much.
Yeah, I can understand how full on it would get there, but yeah, do you have any plans for the future, sort of quieting down? I know that you're coming to Australia, but would you be interested in another team principal role or a job in the media or something new?
In the moment, I come to Australia, do some work there for the TV. I maybe do some other TV work, but I did last year some TV work for a NASCAR race, which I quite enjoyed. I just did it for fun, and it was good training, so good practice. I don't really know what I'm going to do, but just to move into the next team principal job, I'm not really up for that. I've done it 10 years, done it enough. Just doing more of the same. It needs to be a bigger challenge than that. And maybe there is something there in a few years, but in the time in between, I stay around. I try to enjoy myself. I said before to you, I always did jobs where I enjoyed myself, and I try to keep on doing that, and hopefully I will be as lucky as I was up to now.
That's fantastic. Well, of course, you'll be in Australia in the next few weeks. To any of our fans out there, if you want to get to this must-see event, one night only, an evening with Guenther Steiner, you can find all the information at our show notes. Guenther Steiner, thank you so much for joining us on the podium.
Thank you, guys, and thanks for having me. And I'm there in a few weeks.
Yeah, it's amazing. We'll hopefully see you there.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Yeah, really look forward to come to Australia.